I've asked the conversationalists to reflect on their careers and how their experience at MIT and as students has influenced them, and also to reflect on the challenges in the field of international development. Challenges that they have faced and that they believe will be faced and need to be faced by all of us in this field. My first question is not directly about Judith. It's a question that I'm quite interested in because many thousands of years ago, I also was a student at MIT, and my career was very much shaped by my experience here. And so my first question, and I think we'll just move down in this direction, is how has your career, each of your careers, been shaped by your educational experience at MIT and also in the Department of Urban Studies and Planning? So let's begin with Sylvia.
Okay. For me, MIT was an incredible way to change my career because I was originally a systems engineer and I had done a master's in public policy over at Tufts. At the time I was following somebody that I admire as very brilliant, and then I heard about this subject being taught at MIT about targeting the poor, and I said, I have to get a PhD there. And that's how I came to MIT. And not only did it allow me to change my career, this is sort of like a banal answer, I'll give more complex answers to the others. But it also gave me a lot of legitimacy when going out into the field and proposing new things. Shortly after I graduated from MIT, after I finished my dissertation, I went to Washington, and the first interview I had at the IDB, they were like, oh, we want you to come over and work with us. So that was really great, right? Kind of like a symbolic quality seal. But then going back to Venezuela and not wanting to be part of the part of Venezuela that's exiting the country because everything is going downwards, right? But having a voice and fighting for the things that we want to happen. I proposed to the mayor of this municipality of Sucre, who was an opposition mayor who had just won, look, why don't we create a local economic development office here? And he said, you know, because he knew my MIT background, he said, okay, I still have to prove myself. I started with a desk and my own laptop. And I've grown to a staff of 18. He's very careful with the money, so that wasn't easy. But we have a bunch of incredible programs running, and I credit all that to my MIT education, and in particular to the work that I did with Judith, but I'll talk about that in the next question. Okay? Deeper.
Yeah, let me also, well, first I would like to say how happy I am to be here and see all these wonderful people that I've been missing so much in the past 8 years, where I've been here very seldom. To answer the question, let me say just one thing of the many that came to my mind when I was, Mary let me know about this question beforehand. One thing that really influenced me in the following choices in my career, I'm not sure how positively in career terms, but positively in terms of satisfaction for my own career and what I do, has been this idea that pervades this group in the department that you should really choose your research topic depending on what you like and what you feel passionate, and not follow the fashion of the moment, and not follow what is the hot topic that can make you maybe enter some situation or gain professional terms. And this makes you, I discovered in my career that this makes you at the same time for quality work and research, and at the same time for quality life. So all the good things go together. It's a nice surprise. You can, as Judith demonstrates with her life experience, you can produce quality research while having a quality, entertaining life surrounded by people you like, and that's what I've been trying to do in more modest, small world in my professional world.
Judith.
Thank you so much. First of all, it's hard for me to answer this question without getting right into how Judith has influenced my life and how she's so much a part of my experience at MIT. I just want to say that it's been truly a pleasure and an honor to be back at MIT after so many years. One of the things that I've really perceived over the past year or so working at a bank and working with many, many economists is that I think DUSP as a whole is an institution that tends to not be dogmatic and singular in vision in terms of the approach. So when you're talking to an economist, it's often, well, the model is right, the world is wrong. Whereas I think here at DUSP, we really learn to kind of look at how to make the world better, how to understand what are the models that are in the world, and not impose a clear framework, a rigid framework on things that doesn't provide any sort of explanatory benefit, and certainly doesn't really promote development. And I think that's part of the reason that you see so many DUSPers in general at the international development institutions, is that there is this ability to kind of really think and problem solve and create programs and projects that are truly effective and that truly have positive and important development outcomes.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. In terms of your question, I suppose the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about this was the extent to which this program, DUSP in particular, is so interdisciplinary. And the way Judith and everyone here, Bish, Diane, encouraged us to take courses outside of the field of planning, as if planning wasn't large and multidisciplinary enough. I'm glad, Marilee, that your question wasn't, after a gazillion years as a graduate student, can you now please define the field of planning? Because I don't know what we would have said. But Judith used to always say, I don't care if you take a course in philosophy, I just want you to learn how to think. And I remember at the start of every semester, we would sit with her and look through our laundry list of courses that we'd want to take. And I always appreciated the way you encouraged us to go outside our comfort zones. I would never have ended up in the sociology department at Harvard taking a course on organizational sociology. And it was something that, along with the kind of research you did, very much influenced the way I now think about development in organizations. And I think this mixing of disciplines is something that characterizes all DUSPers and gives us an unusual edge and flair. And when you ask about career, not that this is the gold standard, but if you go to the World Bank or IDB, there is no shortage of DUSPers in those institutions. I'd also like to say it's a great pleasure to be here with all my peers, and as Tito was saying, and after so many years apart and seeing so many faces here, many of whom we don't actually know each other that well. Judith's students have a kind of chain link effect, with one generation passing on the mantle to the next. Salo I probably don't know that well. Others, like Tito more on this table, I know very well. Some I've just met, but I've read their work and I know all about them. And I think this peer-to-peer learning is really what completed my education at MIT, and is something that Judith is probably very proud of and loves, partly because of her interest in workers and how workers learn. And it's something that for me has opened many doors in my career, and I'd just like to give one example. In the summer of 2008, I was hiking in northeastern Kashmir in the middle of nowhere in a barren moonscape desert landscape. Stopped for my first water break and a group of people around the corner. And I guess Monica Piñanes, after graduation, had convinced me to buy an MIT t-shirt, which I was wearing on this trip. So this group said, "Did you go to MIT?" And next thing I know, "You're Ugo Beteta?" I don't believe it. I've heard so much about you. I read your work. I'm also a student of Judith, and we spent the next 4 or 5 days together. And actually, it's the first time I see you since then. But it's a great pleasure to be back here with all my friends. Thank you.
I actually wasn't planning to say anything, and as our conversationalists were talking about the benefits of having being egresados from this institution, I have to reflect on actually the benefit that I have had all my career, and that is that I'm not very good at numbers. And yet when people hear that I have a degree from MIT, they infer that I must be just an incredible whiz, and so they never challenge me. And therefore I don't have to demonstrate my ignorance and my inability to do the numbers. So I think that I would add also that as a benefit of the institute, of having been at the institution. Just to reflect on these 4 answers, and I have to say I hate the word empowerment, but it does seem to me that each of our respondents has in some way alluded to a sense of somehow being empowered, and particularly being empowered not to follow the script, not to follow the script of a single discipline, to choose what you want, not to choose what you know is the particular thing of the fad of the day, not to follow the script in terms of career choices, not to follow the script in terms of what the solutions are, but rather look at the problems and think creatively in the real world about what solutions there might be out there. So I think there is a common thread across these responses.